Well, Harrison, I want to talk about Poilievre Derangement Syndrome. We had an entire episode of the show on it a few weeks ago, and it continues to thrive. And so I covered this on my show earlier this week in an interview with Hamish Marshall, where we talked about how the Conservative numbers have just blown everyone's figures out of the park. 600,000 members. Pierre Poilievre claims 311,958 on his website alone. This is dwarfing any previous leadership race, any previous number of membership sold by a political party. And it's so interesting to see how the media narrative has been proven wrong, Harrison, because remember at first when we saw those big rallies at the Pierre Poilievre campaign, the media sort of tried to downplay it. They tried to dismiss it. First they said that, these big rallies are really just, riding the coattails of the trucker convoy, that these people aren't partisan. They're never going to sign up for members, that Pierre's campaign is really disorganized and they wouldn't be able to have the groundwork. Well, that was all proven wrong based on this claim from Jenny Byrne, Poilievre's campaign advisor, that no, all of those things are wrong. Of course, my favorite narrative about the Pierre Poilievre rallies with the media said that they were too white, and that somehow discredited them because of the people, the skin color of the people who go to your rallies apparently can be discrediting. And so it's really interesting, of course, to compare how Poilievre and the Conservative leadership race in general, you see the media downplay it, compare it to how they covered Justin Trudeau. A lot of people have been talking about this because back in 2013, Justin Trudeau claimed that his campaign had signed up 150 to 160,000 people, and the media were like blown away. They were celebrating. They thought this was like a tremendous feat, and that it showed how energetic Trudeau's fan base was, and how he was so engaging, and how he had this big, all this momentum, right? Recall that the Liberals don't charge anything for their membership. So all you really had to do is just like get someone to write down their name and email address, and they didn't have to put any skin in the game, right? Compare that to Pierre and the Conservative Party, where you have to pay at least $15. So you're not just some random person off the street. You have to have that level of commitment to say, I'm willing to part with some of my own money to show that I support this candidate. So just so many aspects of what the media had said all along proving to be false, but the media being the media, they just can't let it go. And so they continue along this line, along this reasoning. Almost all of the news stories that I saw about the Conservative numbers, they always say Conservatives claim, or you see it right built into the headline that this is a claim, that it's not verified. Never trust a politician. John Ivison had a piece over in the National Post, and he said that no one really knows the real numbers. It's a good rule of thumb in journalism to never believe anything that politicians or political parties say. You have to be professional skepticism. That's all well and good, and that is all true. You do need to preface it, but the emphasis is there, right? Just compare this to even just a story we just talked about, right? Mendicino's out there changing his story, being contradicted left, right, and center, and the media still runs with whatever the Liberals say. That's the fact. And then whenever a Conservative says something, they always say allegedly, or Conservatives say, or candidates claim, having that suffix there just to say, well, just to plant some doubt in the reader's mind, like we don't really believe this. This is just what they're saying, and that double standard is there. And then we have another piece, Harrison, from our friend Gary Mason over at the Globe and Mail. He wrote the most deranged piece a couple of weeks ago about Pierre Poilievre. Well, he continues down that line, so I'll read a little bit from this column. He says, say what you will about Mr. Poilievre's policies, many of which range from disturbing to all-out bonkers. His campaign is a well-oiled machine, so he's sort of reluctantly saying that Pierre Poilievre is good at his job. Can't help but throwing in that apparently his policies range from disturbing to bonkers. Okay. And he says basically Pierre Poilievre's good fortune, his supporters don't see his own hypocrisy. He says, this is my favorite line from the piece, Mr. Poilievre is also a phony when it comes to his policies. His oft-stated intention to make Canada the freest country on earth certainly had an appealing ring to the mostly white protesters who participated in the self-described Freedom Convoy earlier this year, to whom he pandered shamelessly. So you can't even come up with anything neutral or I mean, this is just flat out anti-conservative hatred and bigotry masquerading as journalism. What do you make of all this, Harrison?
Well, it totally is, Candice. And I mean, this is just what we've come to expect over these past few months. One thing I just don't really understand, though, is that you're seeing the same amount of, you're seeing the same sort of vitriol and the same amount of negative coverage from the legacy media that you would see directed to people like Maxime Bernier. Pierre Poilievre's campaign is staffed by pretty establishment figures in conservative politics. people who have been around for many years, who have names inside conservative politics, and journalists know that. Pierre Poilievre is not running some outsider anti-establishment campaign. He's very much running from the inside of the Conservative Party. And it just so happens to be that right now, Canada is going through a major moment where we have a leader that has essentially severely damaged the trust of government and people, and has shown them that their charter rights, frankly, aren't that protected. So of course, a good candidate is going to jump on that and make it part of his campaign. But it's just kind of weird to me that the legacy media have decided to attack Pierre Poilievre so much, and almost go as far as to put him in the same category as someone like Maxime Bernier. It's kind of surprising to me, knowing who's a part of Pierre's campaign,